this thing on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the College Football Cut. I am back after a little hiatus because of work. I am your host, Adam Mack, joined alongside my great co-host, Mr. Jared Terrell. Jared, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. Hey, for all of you out there, note to self, if you're testing your co-host mic, make sure your computer's not on mute.
Yeah, that was, me freaking out because my computer says it's working, but Jared says it's not working. And then it turns out Jared can't work a computer, so that's another conversation for another day. But, man, it's good to be back. I know last week kind of sucked. I got stuck at work until the next morning, pretty much, it felt like. But, man, it's good to be back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to have you back, man. I missed you.
I know, man. I missed the opportunity to talk to Randy, which is always the highlight of my life every day. I was getting to talk to him, but
he filled in really well. Him and Eric both did. They were good to have on the show.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we won't break down much of the bowl games since this is usually the boring teams per se. All the real games we'll start talking about hopefully next week. But I think the big topic right now is, man, the transfer portal. Whoever thought this would be a hot topic to discuss?
It's getting pretty exciting. I mean, obviously, Spencer Rattler already ended up somewhere. Yeah. So that was probably the biggest one that people were waiting to have happen. And he made the first move, which was probably a really good decision too, so that way he could get his first choice. But there's a handful of other quarterbacks that we're going to see where they end up. And, you can look at a list of all the guys that have entered the portal, and it's a long list.
Yeah, and it's a long list this year, and it seems like this is one of the better classes for the transfer portal than we've seen in a long time. And obviously Spencer Rattler was the highlight, even though he's definitely not the best player in the portal, especially at his position. But he definitely was that guy that everyone was wondering, where is he going to end up? Where is he going to end up? And a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to end up going to University of Southern California, follow Lincoln Riley there. But he did go to USC, if technically. Yeah. But I was shocked. I'm not sure about you, but I was shocked that he signed with South Carolina. And, I mean, it's a mediocre quarterback going to a mediocre college.
It's a good fit, right?
Yeah, perfect fit. He struggled a lot in the Big 12. What's he going to do in the SEC?
Hopefully recover, but that's not a good conference to recover in.
No, God, no. I remember a few years ago, Kelly Bryant left Clemson after getting benched and then signs with Missouri, and then was just absolutely just as useless at Missouri as he was at Clemson. I mean, what's Spencer Rattler going to do? He's going to play Florida. He's going to play Alabama. He's going to play Georgia. He's playing all these top schools, and he struggled against mediocre schools throughout his career at Oklahoma. So what's he think is going to happen going to South Carolina? I get your old offensive coordinator is now the head coach there, but in the end, you're setting yourself up for failure again. He's trying to show people that he's a first-round talent. He's not going to do that at South Carolina. South Carolina doesn't produce first-round quarterbacks. They never have, and they never will.
Right. Hey, I got to pause real quick. I think my kid's getting sick again.
Okay,
guess
we're gonna do the solo show. So this is gonna be fun. We're gonna figure out how to do this alone. Hopefully, maybe someone's watching that wants to hop on. But for Spencer Rattler, I've been a huge critic of him all season. He's been mediocre. He's going into this season with the highest of expectations, the clear front runner to win the Heisman, the clear pick to be the first overall pick, and he hasn't lived up to that expectation at all. He's done mediocre. He got benched for a true freshman quarterback who, in the end, also struggled and showed his immaturity a lot. Welcome back, Jared.
I gotta go, man. I got a 5 month old that just keeps on puking, so
fun
time,
man. Well, I'll get Christian on.
Okay. So sorry.
Everybody have a great night. Well, we're gonna do the solo show until I find a co-host last minute, so this is gonna be fun. So, let's go back to the transfer portal. Spencer Rattler, big bum. Pretty much as big of a waste of space as I've ever seen. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get a co-host right now. So, to go from, Oklahoma, which has been the premier institution for quarterbacks, he lived up to, he had high expectation. And I think, if he would have gone maybe to South Carolina from the start, it would have been a different story. Maybe he wouldn't have been able to struggle, but high expectations for Spencer Rattler, it hurt him from the start. He playing behind 2 Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks in Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. And then he immediately follows up with Jalen Hurts, who probably would have won it if Joe Burrow didn't have an historic season. So to play in that locker room is tough. So, but in the end, he's going to a mediocre school. South Carolina hasn't been relevant for many, many years, and he's not going to be the one. I know they were able to get, the tight end from Oklahoma as well to join him in South Carolina, which is going to be a big boost for that offense. But it's going to be an interesting season, our transfer portal. But there's some other highlights I wanted to touch on. Quinn Ewers, whatever his name is, going from Ohio State to Texas was almost not to say a shocker, but it was a big move. Going into the year, he signed over $1 million in endorsement deals without ever playing a snap. Top prospect coming out of high school. And he was right up there with, a tough quarterback class. He had, obviously, C.J. Stroud won the job in Ohio State. You had Kyle McCord, who came in relief for a few times and honestly probably could have been just as, dominant of a quarterback for Ohio State if C.J. Stroud wasn't there. So it's a crazy, scenario for him. But, he's going to a big-time school. He's going to go play for Coach Sark, who has a history of coaching, good players. He did it while he was at USC. He did it at Washington. He obviously did it at Alabama with Mac Jones. So, he has that opportunity to do that. And, everyone was saying with Coach Sark is he didn't bring back Texas. Texas wasn't able to bring back the glory of Texas. It's his first season. And now he has a top-tier quarterback. Obviously we haven't seen him play, so there's a lot of question marks with Ewers, but he is that big name quarterback for that Texas program. It's Texas football. They are the premier institution for recruits. Everyone loves that, that color rush of those uniforms. They're a historic team. So he could be that quarterback that takes them. So I love that move for Ewers to go from Ohio State, where truthfully he's not gonna play next year. Probably wasn't going to play after that, because as long as Kyle McCord stays at Ohio State, it's going to be Kyle McCord's job after C.J. Stroud declares for the draft next year. So, I like the move. It was a good move for him to get out of Ohio State. Playing in a crowded quarterback room is not going to be beneficial to anybody. So he has that opportunity to get out of the shadows of Ohio State and make a name for himself. He's going to, if all goes well, he'll probably walk into the starting job day one. So, for me, I like the move for him. I like the move for Texas, and I think it's going to work out for both of them, especially with Oklahoma starting to take a step back. Brent Venables he's going to have some adjusting to do, this could be Texas's opportunity to make a run in the Big 12. So, no, a lot of other quarterbacks making the moves. Dylan Gabriel going from UCF to UCLA. Again, big move. He was he's rated 4 stars according to 24/7 Sports. His stock has been on the rise for a while. UCF has been a really a top tier G5 school. They'll be making the move to the Big 12 in a few years. But it makes a big move for him. He gets to go to the Pac-12, where it's a Power 5 conference. He gets, he's going to get more nationally televised games. But also he gets a very good coach in Chip Kelly. So he has this opportunity to get coached by Chip Kelly. He has this opportunity to go to a top tier program, play in a top tier market in Los Angeles. It's college football. It's a big market. He gets to play at the Rose Bowl every year. So I like that move for Dylan Gabriel. But another name that was kind of shocking, but also not shocking, that entered the transfer portal was Auburn quarterback Bo Nix, and he struggled this year. He was one of those players that I thought could possibly be a dark horse to win the Heisman, to be the first overall pick in the NFL draft, and he fell off the radar. Only 11 touchdowns to like 4 or 5 interceptions, which is just not good, especially for the SEC. So he struggled, and he ended up getting benched against, I think, Georgia Southern earlier in the season. So, seeing him leave shocks me that he finally left, because I know it was his dream school. He dreamed of being the Auburn Tigers quarterback. But, it's going to be curious where he ends up. Part of me thinks he's going to end up at UCF, because where's the coach that recruited him, Gus Malzahn? He's now at UCF. So one other thing I read about him is he doesn't want coaches to contact him. So no coaches are contacting him, which makes you think of one or two things. One, he's just going to pick a school, or he already has his mind made up. And if he has his mind made up, what school is that going to be? Could that be Southern California, where Lincoln Riley has a huge tradition of developing quarterbacks? Could that be, Alabama, where he's going to play behind Bryce Young for a year, even though that's crazy? Could it be a random school like like Spencer Rattler did, that no one saw coming? But I really believe it's going to end up at UCF. It was the coach that recruited him. He had a lot of success with him. It wasn't really his decision for Gus Malzahn to be fired. And it takes a lot of the pressure off. He's not going to the SEC, where he's playing Alabama every year and he's playing top-tier program. He's going to UCF, where, granted, it's a top-tier G5 school, but he was a lot less pressure, and he could still make a name for himself and put up a lot of good numbers. So I like that move for him to go to a G5 school, especially Central Florida. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. So I like that move for him. I hope that's kind of the direction he goes. I hope he doesn't go to that top-tier program because I think he's going to struggle. But I think if he goes to a G5 school, truly develops, and is able to put up good numbers, he's going to make a case for himself in a very crowded quarterback class next year. Another name that kind of shocked me, Miles Brennan, quarterback from LSU, entered the transfer portal pretty early on, in the middle of the season, when it was clear, I think, right before Coach O, right before or right after, when LSU and Coach O announced they would be parting ways at the end of the year. But I love the move to stay at LSU. I think obviously a big thing went into is he didn't know who his coach was going to be when he entered the transfer portal. So he was getting a leg up. So the schools that were looking for quarterbacks that were going to need one of these top tier programs, they could get on his radar a lot sooner. But seeing who LSU hired, they brought in Brian Kelly. They brought in one of the top big-name coaches, a coach that's gone to the college football playoff year in and year out, is constantly a top team in the country, and has obviously been a good person. He's always been that type of guy to reunite and unite a locker room. So part of me is not shocked that he decided to stay at LSU, but it's a good move for LSU. And Brian Kelly in his first year is going to have a lot of, adjustments to do. He's going from non-conference to picking your schedule to playing the best of the best. And he has a quarterback to do it. And it doesn't matter if it's Little League, college, high school, the NFL. If you have a quarterback, you can compete. Brian Kelly has a quarterback at LSU. So it's a huge move, huge pickup. it sucks that Brian Kelly's first recruiting task was recruiting one of his own players that was already an LSU Tiger. So, but it worked out for him, and he has the quarterback, of the future, or at least for a season down Baton Rouge. Another big name I wanted to kind of talk to, Michael Penick Jr., quarterback from Indiana, injured this year, didn't play much. We all saw what Indiana was able to do last year. They were a top team in the Big Ten. And obviously this year Indiana struggled. He also wasn't playing, but he also gets to now go to Washington. Same thing. He's going from a middle Big Ten school to the Pac-12. And the Pac-12, even though USC is probably on the rise with Lincoln Riley, the Pac-12 has never been strong. They've had one team in the college football playoff, and that was Washington in 2016. So he gets to play for a new head coach at Washington. He gets the opportunity to play in the Pac-12. He gets an opportunity to play, and it's still a Power 5 conference. And this is a good move for both parties. He gets him out of Indiana, where Tom Allen is just not a strong coach anymore. Probably should have been fired. Instead, they changed around his contract and kept him around for another year. But it's a good move for him. It's a good move for, Washington. I always say for new head coaches, it doesn't matter if you're a former head coach or a first-time head coach. It's your first year in a new program. You need a quarterback to lead the program. You need that senior and veteran presence on the roster, on the field, especially at the quarterback position. Bringing Penix Jr. in is that senior leadership. There's the guy that's going to be able to unite that offense. He's going to go into the locker room. People are going to respect him. It's going to help the coach in his first year make those changes, make those adjustments, because you have that leadership on the field. So the transfer portal it's been crazy. It's been a lot of a lot of different things that kind of shocked me. I'm also looking at the top 10 according to 24/7 Sports. The top 10 transfer rankings. Shocking. I think number 10 UCLA. Man, Chip Kelly making his way back to top 10. He's staying at UCLA. He's committed to the Bruins, and he's focusing on the transfer portal. He's not been the greatest recruiter so far when he's been at UCLA, but he's been able to pick up a lot of guys. Arkansas. This was Arkansas's biggest, credit to them for this past year. They took advantage of being the 6th-year players because of the extra year because of COVID, but they also really focused on the transfer portal. They picked up some good name players this year. Wide receiver from Oklahoma, which has always been historically top players. Jackson State, Deion Sanders. We're not really talking about how many people he keeps picking up in the transfer portal year in and year out, but he just flipped the number 2 recruit from Florida State to Jackson State. He's making a name for himself down there. I think it's a few years away until Deion Sanders is going to be at a Power 5 school. You got Purdue at 7, San Jose at 6, Kansas Jayhawks are not just a football school anymore, or not just a basketball school anymore. They come in at number 5, which is crazy to think of because Kansas always sucked at football. They still will suck, but the Big 12 there's a new change of power. It's not going to be Oklahoma and Texas anymore. So this is an opportunity to make a run at it. They have the coach to do it. The Les Miles era was a disaster, and he was rightfully fired. Louisville coming in at number 4, Indiana at 3, Michigan State. They're losing a lot of talent this year because of the draft. Kenneth Walker just announced he's skipping the bowl game to prepare for the draft. They picked up a couple running backs in the class. So, Michigan State, they skyrocketed up the rankings this year. A lot of people were kind of counting them out. Obviously, some late season blunders, hurt their chances, mostly in Columbus. But, picking up transfer portal guys is just as valuable as, picking up a high school student. So, and then number 1, South Florida was kind of a huge shocker. But you look at some of the players they bring in, they're bringing in a lot of G5 guys. And then a lot of guys who are the backups at Power 5 schools that want to be starters. That's what these guys got to remember. And you have players who want to be starters. They don't want to ride the bench. They don't want to play behind so and so. They want to be on the field. And if you're at a middle tier Power 5 conference and you're a backup, you're not going to go to Alabama and start because you're going to be the 4th string there. You're not going to go to Georgia because you're going to be the 4th string there. Go to a G5 school. You have this opportunity to be the starter and make a name for yourself. And that's what South Florida is doing. They're picking up those Power 5 guys who aren't necessarily the starters, but they're still very much Power 5 caliber players. Go to a G5 school. You're playing not as well of talent, but you're starting. You're on the field. And when scouts go to watch you, they can see what's on the field. You're not very useful when you're watching the game from the sideline. So I like to see that there's the fair share of G5 schools because that's what's going to do for them. I know Marshall, my alma mater, picked up 2 recruits from Florida State. One's a 4-star, one's a 5-star recruit. It's huge for Marshall. Even though one of the 5-star recruits a running back, and we had a top running back in Rasheen Ali, that's still a good situation to have. Pair Rasheen Ali with another top running back, you just really solidified the run game, especially with making a move to a different conference. If you can solidify that run game, you can help the offense move, especially when the quarterback is struggling, which Grant Wells has done all season long. So I like the moves, even if you have players at that position. So you're seeing a lot more of a shift in power. 7-8 years ago, the G5 or the G5 they weren't relevant. Occasionally, a G5 school would upset a top 25 team. Occasionally. Now it's happening all the time. We have the first G5 team in the college football playoff at Cincinnati. So I think the transfer portals help that. It's giving these players an opportunity to move. And you talk to a lot of people like, oh, I hate the transfer portal. It's not college football. They're just, it's all business. It's like, yeah. They're going to college for an education, but they pick a school because of football. And if they go to the school and they don't get what they want, they're not playing, they're not getting the snaps, they're not getting the reps, why not move to a different school? At the end of the day, it's a degree, and they don't really care at that point what the degree is in or what that university is from. They all want to make it to the league. Unfortunately, not all of them are going to make it to the league, but the situation's not right for them. You might as well make that change. So I love what the transfer portal's been doing. This year seems to be really exciting, not just for the fans, but you're seeing a change in power. I really do believe we're going to start to see more G5 schools being in the top 10. I really think Cincinnati is just the start of something big for college football. So this is the start. Maybe not even just G5, but maybe this is South Carolina's chance. Maybe this is South Carolina's chance to make a run in the SEC. It's not going to happen because Spencer Rattler's not the guy. But the fact that they're going after the big name player in the portal at the moment. So you're seeing a change in power. You're seeing a mix of everything. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Hopefully this isn't the end, but we'll see what happens. Other big news, Saturday night, Bryce Young, Alabama sophomore quarterback, takes home the Heisman Trophy. In doing that, Nick Saban has now coached back-to-back Heisman Trophy winners, Devontae Smith last year. But this now marks 4th overall. Mark Ingram, Derrick Henry, running backs for the previous 2. But the one thing that's kind of shocking, first quarterback for Nick Saban to win the Heisman. The first 2 running backs, and Devontae Smith is obviously a wide receiver, but the man of the hour, Bryce Young. This was a weird year for the Heisman. You've heard us talk on the show all the time. At the beginning of the year, first 2-3 weeks, it was Bryce Young's award to win. The first week when he just absolutely dominated, we were like, oh, it's a wrap. It's gonna go to Bryce Young. He dipped off a lot, and then Matt Corral showed up, and everyone's like, it's Matt Corral's award. Matt Corral dips down. He's irrelevant. He finishes 7th in the rankings. I think that was a little too low for him. I think he should at least been a finalist over the guy we'll get to a little bit later. But then you see other guys who were consistent all year. Or even C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud hurt at the beginning of the year. I think if he was fully healthy, he would have won the award. But hurt at the beginning of the year, struggled against Minnesota, struggled against Oregon, and played pretty mediocre. Kyle McCord came in there for a little bit in replace of him. But then he goes off. And then all of a sudden, C.J. Stroud is going to be the guy to win it. But then, a disappointing loss to Michigan pretty much took him completely out of the running. And then you have other guys. Kenny Pickett played pretty consistent all season long for Pitt, and I think he's top quarterback in this draft. Going into it, so you had a guy like him who was playing consistent, but then other guys who didn't get that call to New York. Desmond Ritter, I think, was probably, in my opinion, was the most consistent quarterback of the year. Played at a high level. He consistently made plays, consistently put up points, and led Cincinnati to the college football playoff. But I think it goes back to who did he play? Didn't play anybody. I still think if it was up to the committee, they wouldn't have included Cincinnati, but they kind of, hands were tied. You kind of were forced to. So, I think that's kind of the reason why he didn't get it. If they played a schedule like Bryce Young and he still had those numbers, it would have been Desmond Ritter's award to lose. But then you have some other name guys. Kenneth Walker, easily the best running back in college football. Remember that 5-touchdown game he had in the middle of the year, which was mind-boggling that someone would have a 5-touchdown game and that defense couldn't find any answers after the second touchdown, let alone the 5th. So he didn't even get the call. So he was a guy that he kind of deserved, I think, a little bit more recognition. But in the end, Bryce Young won the award. It is a quarterback award unless there's a clear favorite, like last year with Devontae Smith, or when Derrick Henry won, or Mark Ingram won, or Desmond Howard from Michigan won back in the 90s. It's a quarterback award. It's always been quarterback driven. It's always going to be quarterback driven. However, I don't think Bryce Young should have won this award this year. The Heisman Trophy goes to the best player in college football. That's what the award is meant to do. The best player in college football was Aiden Hutchinson, the edge rusher from Michigan. There's no hiding it. He is the best player in college football. How quickly he would just tap a guy, and the guy would go falling. I remember watching him against Ohio State. I don't know who left tackle buddy on Ohio State, but man, he had a rough game. And he was getting beat constantly by Hutchinson. Going into the year, Kayvon Thibodeau was the top edge rusher. He's going to win the Heisman. He's going to be the first true defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy this year. Thibodeau gets hurt, but Hutchinson steps in, and Hutchinson's made the case that he's not just the best edge rusher in this upcoming class. He's the best overall player in this draft. And he's going to be the first overall pick to probably Detroit at this point. And in my opinion, Hutchinson should have won the award. Yeah, he was the runner-up, but at this point, what good is a runner-up? Participation trophy? No. He was the best player in college football, without question. Yeah, he didn't have necessarily all the best stats, but he was the best player in college football. Hands down. He should have won the Heisman Trophy. There's no other questions about it. Bryce Young seems to be the safe choice for people. He was the safe pick. I know of the quarterbacks, he probably deserved it. But in the end, he wasn't the best player in college football. Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan was the best player in college football this year. So to not see a guy like him win the award when he definitely should have, it sucks because Hutch deserved that recognition, But in the end, Bryce Young won the award. And I think next year it's going to be tough. He has a lot of competition next year. I know you're adding C.J. Stroud's going to be back. Yeah, obviously he's going to be back, so he's going to be the early season favorite. But we've seen the preseason favorite only win the award once since 2009, and that was Marcus Mariota in 2014. So you have, Bryce Young is going to be in that contention. C.J. Stroud is going to be back. You have DJ Ugulawe, whatever how you pronounce his name, from Clemson, who I think we're going to see a big rise in him because he's going to have some new voices in that locker room to talk to, with Tony Elliott leaving for the Virginia job. So I think we're going to see a rise in him. So you have him. And then you have some other big-name quarterbacks. Caleb Williams. He's going to have a year under his belt. He struggled a lot this season. He was a true freshman. You can't expect a true 18-year-old true freshman quarterback to succeed, especially coming in mid-season. I remember when Jalen Hurts was a true freshman at Alabama. That's Alabama. Alabama had the tools around him. They had a top-tier defense. Oklahoma didn't have that. There's a lot of pressure on them. And especially mid-season, it's hard to walk into a situation at the beginning of the year. Try doing it as an 18-year-old mid-season. So, yeah, he struggled. What would you expect out of him? It wasn't like he was a fifth-year senior. No, he's a true freshman. So you're going to add Caleb Williams into the mix. And then you obviously, you might as well. Spencer Rattler's still there. Maybe he just was the system the whole time. Maybe he really is an elite quarterback. He's not, but maybe he really is an elite quarterback. So, next year's going to be a tough year for the Heisman. You have all these guys who's their first years. Bryce Young, first year at the helm at Alabama. What's he going to do? But then you have other guys in the transfer portal. Quinn Ewers, what's he capable of? We said this is the year of the young quarterback. He sat behind for a year. He learned a lot. He obviously was at Ohio State. He didn't have that pressure of replacing the best quarterback in program history in Justin Fields, like C.J. Stroud did. So maybe he's going to go into a new situation. Maybe he's going to be the player we think he is. And then, as always, maybe there's that surprise player that we just have no idea. Maybe Miles Brennan, LSU. Maybe he's going to go off and win the Heisman. Maybe he was a tough situation with Coach O and just a really rough situation at LSU. So, we have there's a lot of crazy things that we can see next year. But, this year obviously went to Bryce. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Coach Saban. Don't agree with it. But in the end, they voted. I remember when we keep talking to Keith Morehouse. He posted his votes, and he voted number one Bryce Young. So maybe I need to reach out to him and see what was his thought process behind Bryce Young as the Heisman Trophy winner. Maybe I'm just an idiot because people on Twitter love saying that I'm an idiot, and all my friends too. So it's crazy to think. It's a fun argument to have. It was kind of exciting this year that you didn't really know who's going to win the Heisman. I think the last 10, honestly, you knew who was going to win the Heisman. You knew who the best player in college football was. You knew who was going to win the award. So it's going to be exciting, but we'll move on to some other fun topics. Is bowling season. I love going bowling. I might go actual bowling this weekend, but that would take my time away from football. But there are some few games I want to talk about, kind of go into detail. Obviously, a lot of big games this weekend. This is always my favorite time because you get these G5 programs. You get to see those programs that are playing on ESPN. And you get to see these kids, really, taking the spotlight. They're getting games that are like on Facebook Live or CBS Sports Plus HD2, whatever it may be. So one game, Western Kentucky versus App State in the Boca Raton Bowl, Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's a weird time for a bowl game. Can only imagine what those tailgates are going to be or what time those are going to start. But, you have Western Kentucky, who's one of the best offenses in college football this season. Bailey Zappe has been a great quarterback. This season he's first in yards, first in touchdowns, 20th in QBR. He's thrown for 5,500 yards, 56 touchdowns, thrown 11 picks, so it's not great. He has a little bit of accuracy in that issue. But he's an electric quarterback. He only plays in the G5, nothing special, but that's still crazy numbers to put up at any level. Even if those are high school numbers. High school people will be like, whoa, this kid's good. So, Western Kentucky's offense, who's averaging, they're averaging 400-something yards, 500 yards a game, which is just remarkable. 500 yards they're averaging 43 points. I can't speak tonight. averaging 43 points a game compared to App State, which is only 34. But App State has been a good defense this season. Minus the conference championship game. Before that, 21 points. Last few games, 16 points to Louisiana in the Sun Belt Conference Championship. 3 points to Georgia Southern. 7 points to Troy. I don't even know what school this is. Just says USA. South Alabama. What's how many points they give up to Alabama? 7 points to Alabama and the 14 points to Arkansas State. They've also just been not putting up. Their defense has been lights out. I think, and I'm a big advocate, defense wins championships. Defense will win you football games. Bailey Zappe has not seen a defense like App State's this year. So I'm going to take App State in this game simply on defense. Bailey's going to see a defense he hasn't seen all year. And truly, App State's played better talent. And Bailey hasn't seen talent like this all season long. So it's going to be a tough game, overall. It's going to be a fierce game. It's going to be a hard-fought battle game. But in the end, I think it's going to be App State taking that game. Let's move on to another game. Let's see. Well, as we have to, we got to talk about my alma mater, the Marshall Thunder and Herd. This Sunday, 9:15 Eastern Time, the New Orleans Bowl. Obviously, New Orleans, they'll be taking on Louisiana Raging Cajun, number 23 overall team in the country. Obviously, I've been looking at Marshall and following them a lot. No one has opted out at this point for Marshall, which is key. I think one thing that kind of hurt them is, a lot of rumors of Charles Huff interviewing for other jobs. It was reported that he interviewed, it was a finalist for Virginia Tech. Obviously, that went to Penn State defensive coordinator Brent Pry. But it was also reported that he was offered the head coaching job at Duke, but it wasn't the right time. So, as a Marshall fan, it sucks to know that he's probably going to leave next year if they can continue playing at this high level. But no one's opted out from Marshall. In Louisiana, man, the issue they're going to have is obviously Billy Napier's not there. He took the job at Florida. He made it clear he was leaving at the end after the Sun Belt Championship. They put so much effort into that game because they knew he was leaving. Need a little beverage. So I think with Louisiana, and they've obviously had a lot of opt-outs, but I think the big thing is they're missing their coaching staff. Billy Napier took a lot of his coaches to Florida with him. And obviously, Louisiana's already named their replacement by promoting within, but it's still an adjustment. You can't go from a coordinator to head coach and expect a seamless transition. Even if you're familiar with the locker room, the transition is going to be, quicker than, maybe Brian Kelly going from Notre Dame to LSU. But there's still going to be adjustments. Marcus Freeman's going to have that at Notre Dame. Yeah, everyone supported him from the start, but he's going to have some adjustments. So in the end, it's going to be a tough game. I love Marshall. I love what they've been doing this year. If they can stick to the run game and stick to what's working, I think they can win. Rasheen Ali has been a top running back in the country all year. He was leading the country in touchdowns for rushing touchdowns for a majority of this year. So if he can have a big game and they can establish the run, other things can work. They can stop. They don't need to rely on the pass game. That's been Marshall's issue a lot this year. They've relied a lot on the pass game. And Grant Wells has struggled. He's struggled a lot all season long. So if they can establish that run game early, establish it strong, and then they can focus on the passing game. Get other guys involved. Xavier Gaines, the tight end. Get Willie Johnson. Get those guys involved after the run game. Then we can talk a little bit about Marshall, getting some work done, getting it all settled. So if they can do that, they can focus on getting that run game. I'm going to take the Herd. But if they don't establish that run game from the start, it's going to be Louisiana's game. So it's going to be up to Marshall. Marshall's going to decide who wins this game on the game plan and the game plan for Saturday. Charles Huff's a running back guy. Coach Saquon Barkley, Najee Harris, he's a running back guru. He's done a great job with Rasheen Ali, but he needs to establish the run game early. Has to get Rasheen Ali the ball. Needs to get Sheldon Evans the ball. Give him that dual threat running back game. Once we establish that game, once they can break down the defense on the run with the run game, get those other guys involved. And then obviously you got on the defensive side of the ball. The defense on Marshall has been incredible for the first 3 quarters of the game. And then the fourth quarter, it's just been a slow decline. We saw the East Carolina game, 21 unanswered points. Western Kentucky, 14 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. If that defense can play 4 straight quarters of good football, Marshall can maybe get bailed out by Grant Wells' struggles. But if the defense keeps doing what they've been doing all year, it's going to be relied on Grant Wells in the pass game or that run game. So it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. It's a pretty late game, which that's what you get for the G5, and you're playing on ESPN before Christmas. But let's see what other fun games. I think, obviously you got to pay tribute. The Celebration Bowl this Saturday, noon on ESPN, South Carolina State versus Jackson State. My man, Deion Sanders has been such a hot topic the past couple days, especially after yesterday. Let me figure out what his name is real quick because I came unprepared for today's show, as I always do. And he was able to... there it is. The big topic, Travis Hunter, number 2 overall recruit in the 2022 class. Originally committed to Florida State. Signing day yesterday. Biggest shocker. Decommits from Florida State, commits to Jackson State. Wants to play at HBCU. Wants to play for an elite, football player and a guy who's making a name for himself as a coach in Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders is making a name for himself at Jackson State. He's bringing in this talent. He's bringing in names. He's, we've talked about earlier in the show. He's bringing in top, the transfer portal. Now he's doing a good job of recruiting. I remember a few years ago when Florida State was looking for a coach, I said they need to hire Deion Sanders. Few reasons. One, head coach sometimes is just a face of a program. We saw it with Dabo Swinney. Look who his coordinators were so long, and look at the constant success he had. But you're not going to tell me as a recruit, if Deion Sanders got you on the phone and said, I want to talk to you, that you weren't going to invite Deion Sanders into your room. There wasn't a chance you weren't going to let one of the best football players of all time. He was going to get into everybody's room. He was going to get at everybody's house. Everybody's going to want an opportunity to hear him out. And imagine 10, 15 years now, you're telling your kids, yeah, I was coached by, an all-time NFL great. That's an amazing thing to go with. And now he's doing that at Jackson State. And he's using, the message of an HBCU, which is the best message I think we could be talking about is, he's bringing awareness to them. So I love that move. And especially for Travis Hunter, he's bringing a top-tier talent. If he can play like the player he's meant to be, maybe Jackson State's is going to be playing in a New Year's Six Bowl in the next year or two. Because I think that would be exciting to see a Deion Sanders team play an Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. Even though Alabama will probably be in the college football playoff, but it's something like that gets you as a fan excited to see. So I like that. I really don't know much about South Carolina State, but I'm obviously going to go Jacksonville State because they're the marquee team in this game. Everyone wants to see them win, so I like that game. But overall, you got a lot of good games. Even though they're not, the top programs that you want to watch, like the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Michigan States, the Floridas. You still have a lot of, good football games. And I think the best part is it's all day. You have one game starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. Going to the Marshall game that will end at 11 o'clock at night, probably midnight, probably the next day, in all honesty. But you have a lot of games, UAB versus BYU, Utah State versus Oregon State, Missouri versus Army, Central Florida versus Florida. I mean, that's a good game right there. You have a G5 school who's trying to make a name for themselves, taking on a premier team in Florida. What bowl game is even that? Even in the Gasparilla Bowl. Some people think, oh, it's a step down for Florida. No, UCF's going to bring them their best game they've played all year. And so Florida needs to play so they don't completely embarrass themselves this season. What other games we have? Memphis and Hawaii, the Hawaii Bowl. I mean, these are good games, and it's fun to watch. I always like bowl season. Yeah, you have players who are opting out, but it's still fun. And I'm just at this point just rambling and just going off. I want to bring up one point. Everyone always gives players a lot of shit. You're opting out of the bowl game. You're just a quitter. You're not finishing the season, yada, yada, yada. What about these coaches that have left already for other jobs? What about Lincoln Riley? He's doing the same thing. He's opted out. He opted out in Oklahoma's bowl game. He could have easily gone and coached Oklahoma and then left 3 days later for USC. There's nothing stopping him. What about, Mario Cristobal? He could have coached at Georgia or Oregon, finished off their season. No, he jumped shipped over to Miami. Why aren't the coaches getting, the shit and the crap? Remember, they're the ones truly being paid to do this. We're still talking about college students who are trying to look out for their future. Lincoln Riley was looking out for his paycheck. He wanted to make sure that USC paycheck got into his pocket right away. But then people want to give crap to Kenny Pickett, who's just announced he's foregoing the bowl game and declaring for the NFL draft. So, in the end, you're blaming the people who are looking out for their future and really have nothing in this game. If Kenny Pickett goes out and bombs, he's not going to lose. He's not going to lose money. But if Lincoln Riley goes out and bombs in the bowl game, maybe USC pulls it back a little bit. Maybe, hey, take a couple mil or two from your paycheck. So that's the one thing we got to focus on. We got to focus on who we're blaming, other stuff like that. But it's bowl season, man. We're bowling. Next week we'll get into a lot of the New Year's Six bowls because we're getting close to that. We're getting to the week between Christmas and New Year's where you have a lot of big games, and then obviously the big ones, the college football playoffs coming up. I'll touch a little bit on that. We have Alabama. Who is Alabama playing? Cincinnati? Yeah, Cincinnati. I mean, Alabama's going to trounce them. Even though I've been super happy to see that Cincinnati has made it to the playoff, the first G5 school, Alabama's going to dominate. It's big, bad Bama. They're so strong. They're so big. I'm rooting for them. I think for my prediction, Cincinnati's going to start off strong. They might go up 14 points on them because that's the player Desmond Ritter is. But in the end, Cincinnati's going to go out too quickly, too early. I said that right. Maybe. I don't know. They're going to go out too fast, too early, and they're going to get tired by the fourth quarter. And Alabama is so deep. They have so much depth on that team. It's going to end up being a fourth-quarter game, and Alabama has the pieces to go four quarters, pedal to the metal. Cincinnati doesn't. As much as I hope Cincinnati pulls off the upset of the century, it's going to be Alabama. Georgia versus Michigan, man. If everyone stays healthy, obviously Aiden Hutchinson is that player to, is a difference maker. He's, like I said earlier, the best player in college football. He can make a difference. He can bulldoze and disrupt that Georgia offensive line. Georgia, they're pissed. They lost that SEC championship game. They weren't prepared. They came out flat. Alabama probably shouldn't have won that game, but Georgia blew it. They want that rematch, and we're gonna get that rematch. As much as I don't want to see a rematch, we're gonna see a rematch, and it's gonna be cute. I'm curious to see who wins that rematch. Part 2, honestly, part 3, because they did the national championship game a few years ago. But this was fun. Obviously, I miss Jared, and I hope his kid's not puking anymore. But this was fun to go solo and just ramble for forever and ever and ever. We will be back hopefully next week for if all goes well and no one's throwing up and no one has to work late like I unfortunately did last week. But make sure you tune into everybody. Everything at the College Football Cut. You have DFS Dive on Friday nights. You have the Cut FFB with Christian and Randy on Mondays. You have the Debut Royale with Christian and his boys on Tuesdays. Coach Approach on Wednesdays. Obviously, every Thursday you have the College Football Cut with Jared and I. As always, it is so much fun to talk to you guys. If you ever want to, talk college football, slide into our DMs, chat with us. We're pretty chill guys. Just kind of go along for the ride. So check us out. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. As always, see you all and go Herd.